the district wants to present to you what our goal is for the fall, and that's to be 100% in-person teaching and learning. So what the district has done is we've tried to answer the questions. About a month ago, we were taking a bird's eye view of what it might look like. And now we hopefully have answered most of your questions, most of the community's questions. And if we haven't, that's why you're here tonight, is because we don't have all the answers. And we've done our best to try to make sure that, number one, when faculty and our support staff and our teachers and everybody return, it's a safe, healthy environment. And number two, when our kids come back, it's a healthy and safe environment. So, if we take a look at this timeline, on July 29th, we did submit our plan to the State Ed Department and the Department of Health. That's what we needed to do. And I made sure they got it, because I don't know if you saw it today. The governor sent out a list of school districts that haven't done that. We weren't on there. I started to sweat. I'm like, no, don't say don't. But, so we've submitted our plans. We can assume that our plan has been approved until I hear otherwise. That's the guidance. The newest guidance is that the state is not going to approve it. It should be your Department of Health. So I have a phone call tomorrow at 2 o'clock with Paul Pettit from the Department of Health, just to make sure that our plans are in line with what they recommend and what they need. So I will say that our plan is approved until you hear otherwise. Obviously, last Friday, the governor came out and gave our region the thumbs up to reopen, and basically left the reopening plans, the decisions, to the local school districts. There are lots of school districts doing various things based on their own challenges. Many districts can't open because of transportation issues. Many districts can't fully open because of class sizes and their rooms and their facilities. These last couple weeks, I've worked with Jordan and Josh and the administrative team, and we went through this district and said, can we reopen? Right now, the answer is yes. We have the class sizes, we have the kids social distancing in the classrooms, we can abide and reassure the state that we can abide by all of these guidelines. So that is our plan for the fall, is to reopen as normal as possible. On August 17th, which is next Monday, I'd like to have another meeting here to talk about the other two plans. And again, tonight's goal is to review what our end goal is, and that's to reopen fully. And we'll go through those slides that I sent out to you at the end of last week. And I just want to focus in on that, because that is what our goal is for September. And then next week, we also have to have a hybrid plan and a remote plan. And currently, right now, the administrators in the districts are working on those plans to roll those out, God forbid, if we ever had to go to one of those models. On August 20th, I will be presenting community information regarding these plans. Of course, the governor last Friday said that school districts needed to have at least 3 parent meetings. I really don't consider this a parent meeting, because those are usually community forums where it's just providing information. This task force is tasked in enforcing some work that needs to be done. And we need your opinions, again, on how to reopen our buildings safely. And then on August 24th, Mr. Z and I will be doing a YouTube live stream event, again, to provide all of this information for our community to be as transparent as possible. And again, those will have questions and answer periods just like this evening. On September 3rd, that's the first day that our staff is going to return back to school. So all district staff will be back here on Thursday. And again, if you saw the school calendar, we moved 2 superintendent conference days to that Wednesday and Thursday after Labor Day. So our staff will be here for 4 full days before the kids come in on Friday. Now, there was a question about some community members saying, why in the world would you have the kids come on a Friday and then be gone for the weekend? Honestly, it's a trial run. While all of this stuff looks great on paper, I will tell you, it's going to be quite interesting when the students come back. It's going to be quite interesting when our district staff comes back for 4 days. We want to be very cautious. We want to monitor and make sure that everybody is safe. And once again, to have the kids just to come in here, just to run through a day, and then send them home for the weekend so we can pick up the pieces and tweak our protocols is the best thing. Like I said, all of this stuff looks good on paper. These are working documents. These are working plans. Our Board of Education will not approve these plans because they are constantly changing. As of this morning, I had to post 3 new things on our website in regards to our remote learning plan and some of the things that the state directed us to do. So things are constantly changing, and unfortunately, we're constantly reacting to these. So, but this is kind of what our timeline is going to look like, and again, I thank you for being a part of this process. So our goal, as of right now, per the district's position, is that we are coming back here full-time, 100% in-person learning and teaching. So, what I have for you tonight is our administrative team to talk about their departments, their buildings, on what to expect. What I'm going to need from you is feedback. Those types of questions of, hey, did you think about this? Oh, I think this is a great plan. What are you doing here? Because what we need to do is we need to finalize these plans to make sure that we've covered all our bases. And I'm not sure that we have. We've sat down and we've met every single day for the past few weeks trying to figure this out. So again, ask us questions. Why did you do this? What's up with that? That's the type of feedback that we need. We did take your feedback from the first meeting and use that to kind of put this stuff together, but I didn't want to come to you. I didn't want the district to come to you and say, okay, we're going to come back in the fall. What should that look like? Because we'd be all over the place. So we're trying to provide some real good direction on some of the things that we're doing here in accordance with the guidance. But if you have a question, you have a concern, what about this, what about that? We will take that feedback and we will tweak some of these plans. So what I need from you tonight is to listen to what we're going to try to do, listen to the principals, listen to the director of facilities and the transportation director. Make sure things sound right to you. Make sure they sound safe to you. Because the governor's right. You're not going to send your kid if you don't feel comfortable in what the district is doing. So that's why we're here tonight. And again, I need you to be the liaison, to go out there in the community when the community has questions and say, hey, you know what? I was a part of that task force. We put these plans together. Here is the reason why. So I'm going to turn it over to Josh right now to kind of go over a little bit of the transportation protocols.
Thanks, Jim. Well, hello everybody. As you can see, it's mandated we have to wear masks on buses. There's no ifs or buts about it. We're kind of confined. We're going to have the windows open, help the air circulation. But that is just a plan. Our drivers will be masked all times. There's no hand sanitizer on buses. Alcohol, hand sanitizer, because it's flammable. Drivers using non-alcohol hand sanitizer, but we can't use any of that on the bus. The 1 student per seat, the way we want to do it is a zigzag pattern. It's so one's on the inside, one's on the outside. We try to maintain maximum distance in between. If you are from the same family or household, we're allowed people to sit together in that same seat, so the 2 to that seat, 4 to in the middle. That should give us about 50% capacity on buses. On buses that are 65 capacity, we should be around about 30-ish or so, depending on the run. But we're all under that right now. It should be on some other runs. There's a couple that are close to that, but we should have plenty of room for the kids. Let's see. So morning pickups. So our plan is right now to load the first person on, we'll go to the back of the bus and load up to the front as we go to minimize the amount of people crossing on the bus. I realize we'll probably get some point where people will cross in there, but this is what we're going to try to do to minimize that on the school bus. And at school, we're not all letting off at one time. We're going to talk about this a lot, but we doesn't go. When we get to the buildings, but there's a plan in place to let certain grades off at a time, so everyone's going to gradually getting off the bus. And using separate doors. There's 2 doors at the high school. The elementary school has more than that, has 5 doors. For the students in. So it kind of minimize the bottlenecking of people. And in the afternoon, first get off the bus, you want to try to move from the bus so you can go any distance from the bus, the same kind of thing. There will be a little bit of interaction, but hopefully we'll minimize that as we go. And the cleaning will be important. Bus drivers will have disinfectants and stuff in between each run. There's time in between high school to elementary for a spray and wipe down the seats. And then when we're going to elementary again, we'll be able to spray and wipe down the seats. And then disinfect after that. And in the afternoon as well, when it's in the morning, the bus will be fresh and ready to go. Does anybody have any questions on any of this stuff here? No? The busing this year, there's going to be, we're going to minimize the amount of switching buses, only in case of emergencies. We've done years past where people have notes and stuff to roll with different buses. We're going to be set schedules, but seats are going to be assigned for everybody. So if there is, we can change in case of emergency, like if there is a, we need set schedules for the busing this year. This is kind of a rough diagram of what the bus will look like. We try to zigzag the seating, unless there's families. And there's families will be a couple more seats. So, but the hatches, we'll have all those open until it gets too cold to do so. We'll help it be our flow. So we're not all giving each other's masks or ultra. Anything else? So any other questions about any of the times? Should be roughly the same.
We got questions here. We'll just submit the questions electronically. We'll do them all at the end.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. And I'll pass it on to Lynn.
All right. So one of the things you're going to hear a lot is that when our kids are standing or interacting, when they're transitioning, they will be masking. We will have spaces in the classrooms where they won't have to mask, but we will be encouraging and enforcing the standing masking at the beginning of the school year to help them learn that new routine. So you're going to hear us say that a lot. Some of the things that we've added this year for supply list is the mask requirements. For the elementary school, we are encouraging you to get a lanyard. We have about 130 lanyards that have been donated to the school for the elementary kids. And Matt has probably 300 for kids that want them at his building. The idea is that it will clip to the side of your mask. And then we tried to show you some pictures so that when you're wearing your lanyard, if you take your mask off to eat, take a drink of water, you're at your desk sitting, it doesn't fall on the floor. And as you know, for elementary kids, they do a lot of sharing and swapping, and we don't want them to share and swap their masks. The other thing that we're requesting is a beach towel. And we tried to show you some pictures of why we might need that. The first one, obviously, I'm outside. We want them to be outside as much as possible. We want them to be able to be in the fresh air. But it'll give them a nice visual. Our littles really do better at boundaries and visuals. But inside the classroom, some of the kids can be on the floor and hanging out in their very flexible seating spaces that they've grown so accustomed to. We didn't want to take that away from them because of the COVID restrictions. So not everybody will be able to be flexible at one time, but the teachers will be able to create spaces and times and rotate kids through so that everybody has an opportunity to not be confined at their desk. So those are the reasons that we were asking for those additional items. This is probably going to be one of the biggest adjustments we have to make is the pickup and drop off. As you know, I've always been very uncomfortable with the bus loop and the parent drop off at the same location. We've had a lot of congestion. It's hard to see kids getting in and out of their cars from the side. They have a long way to walk. So we are going to try and stagger arrival and departure times. We are going to have the buses at 8:30 come into the bus loop at the front, and I will show you. I have a picture. So they're going to come through the front like they always do. They will come through. They're going to drop off their kids' hallway B kids will unload, C kids will unload at hallway C. 3rd and 4th grade kids are going to go into the main entrance. Hallway D is going to be for 1st grade, and then hallway E is going to be for the rest of the kiddos. Once those buses are unloaded and out of the loop, we're then going to invite parents to come in, and we try to give them a fairly large window because we aren't taking an absent or a late target until 9 a.m. So you're going to be able to come into that same bus loop that we typically don't allow you in, and we're going to let you come to the front and drop off as many cars and every kid as you can. We have estimated, Jordan and I think we probably can unload about 10 cars at once, and then you'll be able to leave quickly. We will have the sidewalk monitors to help kids get to and from, get out of their cars, but this will give us a better visual, and we'll be able to assist families. If sometimes the kiddos are having a hard time saying goodbye to parents, we'll be able to see that faster and get them to their assigned door quicker. Breakfast this year is for the elementary students. Everybody is going to be in the classroom. So we have breakfast carts that will come to the classroom, and they're going to order a breakfast like they order a lunch. When they come to the classroom, the teacher is going to give them the roster, and it will highlight how many kids want breakfast. The breakfast will be dropped off, and then our custodians, we have 3 day custodians on shift this year. They're going to be able to come through, take out the garbage in the morning around 9:10, and they won't have the sneaky milk in the garbage, which is important for our teachers. Because it is on a cart, Mondays and Fridays will be more cold items, your yogurts, your cereals, bagels, and then Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays will be your pancakes, your breakfast sandwiches, some of those hot items. For lunch, we are going to have all kids in the cafeteria. We have them spaced out, which some kids are going to be sitting on the stage at their tables, some kids will be in the actual cafeteria part. We will have 2 lines. The inside kitchen line is going to be for hot items, and Mary is going to do a really nice job with her crew. Everything's going to be packaged to go. You're just going to take a box, and everything's going to be ready for you. So there's going to be really minimal interaction, and there'll be a faster pace through the line. The outside line that we have called it inside the cafeteria is going to be for your cold items, your peanut butter and jellies, things of that nature. But everything will be prepackaged for them to leave. And the kids are also, I think it's a later slide to show you, but we're going to have a barcode that will be attached to if they have a lanyard in their mask, so that they can just use the barcode and we won't have to do any of the pin cap touching. So, specials. I'm sorry, it's hard to breathe and talk with this thing, and bear with me. So for specials, we are going to have everybody travel to specials except for a few cohorts of students that may have to have music come to them or art come to them, just because of the size capacity. Leo's room's a little bit smaller, so is Kristen's. Jordan and I are still working on that. We might still try to open up one of the band doors to music, just try to spread them out. So we're still working on that. Whenever we can get those kids a break out of the classroom to go to specials, we really are trying for that. And band, with the restrictions of band, you have to be 12 feet around all the way. And I don't have a space large enough in our building to accommodate that. So a large ensemble can't be. We're going to be doing lessons throughout the day. So for cohorts of kids, the only time students will leave the room is if they are considered a Tier 2 or Tier 3, and that's our reading and math interventions. They will be escorted to their new classroom for that 30 to 40 minute window by the teacher, so they are supervised and making sure that social distancing and all the safe precautions are in place. And then the same will happen for our related services, OT, PT, speech, and counselors. If they have those appointments, they will be escorted to and from those designated classrooms. So some of the kids that have been used to having, some group stuff, they may not have a group that day. They might have more individual time with a Tier 2, Tier 3 teacher. Those are things that we're going to work through with our faculty when they return in September. 4th and 5th grade will still be departmentalized like they're used to, but what we've decided to do is have the teacher rotate. So if you have Mr. Lamar for Content Lit, he's going to move his cart to the classroom so the kids don't have to exchange and interact in the hallway. So we felt that was probably the safest way for us to keep the kids together. These are just some pictures. I'm a visual learner. I like to see what I'm talking about. So these are some pictures of some classrooms that we've set up that Jordan's group has been doing a fantastic job, and without them, none of this is possible, so kudos to them. They went through and they measured to show us the safe distances. They went through and maximized the capacities for kids to be safe, but still have a fairly comfortable environment. At the elementary school, we don't have kids stuck at a wall where they have the screens behind them. We've been really cognizant of making sure that it's a safe but comfortable environment. So dismissal this year is also going to be new. We are going to try to use parent square. And I know we're not all familiar with it. You've heard us talking about it a few times. But for parents that need to pick up their kiddos, we're opening the window up from 3:05 to 3:25. You're going to come through to the front of the building just like you did for drop-off. You're going to come in right to the front sidewalk. But we're going to ask you to check in through Parent Square to let us know you're here. From that point, your child will be able to exit that hallway that they're assigned to, and we will have aides and monitors making sure that you're really supposed to go out and making sure you're getting in the right car. We're also going to send home to every family a tag for your window. You can just leave it in front of your dashboard, and it's going to be a bright color with probably just your last name, and if you have a hyphenated name, we'll honor that as well. But the teacher will be able to see that if Jake Gaylor is being picked up, that his card says Gaylor in the car that he's getting into. So we'll have a window for that, and then once the parents are out of that area, then Josh will be able to have his buses come through, his buses will line up, and then we'll continue to unload the building. This is probably the most stressful part of the plan for me to kind of figure out. We've talked about it at the admin level. I've talked with Josh, I've talked with other schools that do this. Just trying to get the best plans put together in the safest, most comfortable way for our Oakfield kids to be taken care of. So this is going to be something that we'll have to be monitoring and adjusting, and if you have feedback or concerns, just please communicate that with me right away when school opens back up so we can make this a safe plan and make it work for everybody. And we have another visual to kind of show you from a different angle of what that will look like. So when you come in, you're not going to use that side loop anymore as a parent drop-off or pickup. You're going to come right to the front of the building so that we have as many visuals on your kiddos and your cars as possible to make sure that the right kids are going home with the right families. Mr. Peterson.
Thank you. So in middle high school, when I start with this, and I don't want to get into the details behind the choice that I'm referring to here, because that's next week's meeting. We talk about what remote learners are going to be doing. But the reality is that it is a choice for students in this building to show up and learn in the classrooms with their peers. But if you're not comfortable with that for any reason, middle and high school students should have an option to learn from home. And I'll refer to this later. There's a point I want to make with this choice. It has to do with masks. I'll save that point when I get to it. So the goal is to get as many kids as we can here in person, as many that are comfortable. So with the mask, what we're asking them to do is similar to the elementary school. If they stand up, they put a mask on. So I think that's easy to remember. When they're in their classrooms, if they're seated, we're going to keep them 6 feet apart. They'll be able to take their masks off. What I worry about in a high school or middle school setting is a certain student who maybe would choose not to wear a mask. And what we're going to say is if you choose not to wear a mask, you choose to learn at home. And you're really choosing that remote option. If your son or daughter comes into the building and they don't want to wear a mask, they can't come. And that's one of the things we want to do is keep this building open. And to do that, we've got to follow the safety protocols to the letter of the law and not slip up in that area. So if a student is not wearing a mask in the hallway, we can talk about this. But what I don't want to do is start suspending kids for not wearing masks. And I'm not going to do that. What we're going to do is politely invite that student to learn from home if they can't follow the mask protocols. So it's something that it'll take some getting used to for our kids. But it takes some getting used to for all of us. We're all been doing this long enough where we know the masks aren't comfortable, but it's something we're getting used to. And it's a safety thing. Certain classrooms will have a sign on their door that will designate them as a mask classroom. And I think I have a couple visuals still up in here to show you what those look like. So the learning experiences are in person, but there are some of our students that are going to have to kind of go a hybrid route. That includes our BOCES students. The calendar of BOCES, if you have a son or daughter who's going to go to BOCES this year, you've received a letter from me that explains what that looks like. Those students are going to go on to campus in Batavia all day on Thursdays and Fridays. And one of the solutions that we're working on is, while they're in our building, we schedule them to be half day here. Half day in the building, half day BOCES. So what we're working on this year is we don't have them on Thursdays and Fridays. On the half day that they typically would go to BOCES, we're going to have a remote learning lab set up here. And they're going to be caught up on all the assignments and work that they would have missed when they were off campus on Thursday and Friday. So in that regard, our students who leave campus for BOCES will have a hybrid approach that will work out the details of how that's going to look. And I explain that on these slides here. So a typical morning BOCES student schedule would look something like this. They leave our campus after first period, go off to BOCES, and then they come back here and have classes. If you go in the afternoon, it's obviously just reversed. You know, what they're going to do this year is they've forced the schedule on us to look something like this. So we think there's a way to make it work, but as is the case with anything else, after a week of doing this or 2 weeks, if it needs to be adjusted, we'll adjust it. Because that's a difficult lift to put on kids, to say you're going to miss 2 days of instruction per week and we'll get you caught up the following week on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, but that's what we're going to try and do for those kids who are interested in going to BOCES. Our bus drop-off and breakfast times, the details are mentioned on here. What we're just going to try and do is stagger the times with which they come off the bus. So if we set up a schedule similar to this, we think we can thin the herd out enough where we're safe. Then we'll start with the breakfast eaters, and I have some visuals here with the doors coming up. You'll see where they enter. But when they enter the building, those kids who will get breakfast are going to go to the cafeteria. When the other students enter in the few minutes after, they're going to do their thing at their locker and they go to their first period class. There's the pictures here. So typically they would come in this middle door that you see. Everyone funnels into that one. This year we think if you spread them out over these 3 doors, we can thin the herd out enough and maintain a safe social distance. And then regarding breakfast, we are going to use the cafeteria here in this building, so it holds 70 students. And what we're going to do is ask middle school students to stay in there, eat their breakfast. If we go over that capacity, we'll push our high school breakfast eaters into their first period classes. And again, adjust that as needed. And then the card you see here is a card we're going to have students use rather than the cash transactions. That'll be for lunch as well. So in the hallways, we want to maintain social distancing. There'll be signage in the classrooms. You'll see some pictures coming up here. We're going to keep our desks 6 feet apart. And these are the kind of signs that we'll put in the hallways just to communicate some reminders of things that we're all used to by now. Wear a mask. This way, stay 6 feet apart. These signs will be all over the building. And then classrooms, as you saw at the elementary school. Jordan and his crew spent a considerable amount of time this summer getting into the classrooms, removing some of the clutter, removing some of the desks that we can't fit in there and maintain the 6 feet. And we've carefully mapped out the numbers and worked to adjust class sizes so that we can make it work. Here's another class, one of our larger classes. And then outside, we're going to encourage teachers, if the weather's accommodating, to take their kids outside. Not always ideal, but when possible, we'll leave that up to teacher discretion to take them outside. And this is what I was referring to earlier. Some of the areas will mark these specifically. For one reason or another, in this particular room, maintain your mask on whether you're seated or not. And those will be, as needed. And then passing time, similar to the bus drop-off, the goal is just to thin the herd enough. So we think if we follow a schedule similar to what you see here, we can accomplish that. We'll see how it works. After the first day of the trial run that Mr. Fisk mentioned, if this needs to be adjusted, we'll adjust it. If we release roughly half the school a few minutes early, roughly half the school on time, and then do something unique with the 6th graders where we keep them in their classroom until the hall's clear, we think we can do that. I mentioned the one of the things that's not said, but when, for the students that are here, lunch will not be what you're used to. And that's, it's sad that you're going to go into the cafeteria and instead of sitting with your peers and talking and socializing and letting off steam, you're going to be 6 feet apart in rows. It's going to be a little stale, and it's going to take some getting used to, but unfortunately that's the nature of what we're dealing with here. So we can get 70 desks in there, but they're going to be in rows, and they're going to be 6 feet apart from your friend, and that's the best we can do. We also talked about allowing some of the kids to slip out of the cafeteria and outside. We're exploring some of those options as well. With the specials, we think we can have as normal as a schedule as possible here. Some exceptions. Band and chorus is an exception. We cannot have a full ensemble performing in a room, even a room as large as this. But what we think we can do is keep band and or chorus on the student schedule. In the event that things change later on down the year, we can get the whole group ensemble going, we'll have it on their schedule. But what we're going to do is we're going to put Mrs. Milam and Mr. Bolton in this room with the entire band and or chorus, depending on the day. And then, if it's chorus day, Mrs. Milam will work with small groups of students. Mr. Bolton will be in here with the other students. It may end up being like a study hall. They'll use that time as they see fit, and we'll flip it for band and chorus days. If there's anything we can pull off, it's going to be a little different. There'll be no access to the locker rooms, but again, we can do physical activities. It won't be exactly the same. I think I have some pictures here. We've with Mrs. Hilchey and the rest of the phys ed staff, put lines on the floor. It's like 12-foot barriers. So within those 12-foot squares taped down on the floors, the teachers are going to design some lessons. They're going to be creative in how they use that space. There won't be any locker rooms, so it'll look different. And then after school, we don't have any definitive information on sports other than to say that it's a September 21st pause. I won't predict whether we start sports after that, but extracurriculars we're going to run as normal as possible after school, and we're just going to coordinate who's staying and who needs a bus ride home, and we'll communicate that with Mr. Luxon. But we're going to try to run those extracurriculars so long as the building is cleared out by 4, we're good to go. And that's a general overview for high school. If I can sum it all up, we're going to do is have as normal as a learning experience as possible, and we're going to be flexible. We're going to adjust as we. That's the plan, I think, for everyone going forward. So I'll turn it over to Mrs. Becky. She'll talk to you a little bit about the special ed protocols.
All right. So first and foremost, all students that have an IEP or a 504 plan will be making sure that all of the students are receiving the recommended services that are on their IEPs. There may be some specific families that I will have to meet with individually with administration. If there's a medical need that we need to make some adjustments to a 504 plan or an IEP, we can absolutely do that. I'll be working with Jordan as well and some of the conditions of the classroom if any of those students have specific needs. Our students that are in our 3 special classes, we have a 1211 in the elementary school, an 811 in the middle school, and then a 1211 in the high school. Even if we have to eventually go to a hybrid situation, we're hoping to still be able to allow the students to be here in person, face-to-face for all of that time, for as well as their related services. For some students, it's not medically feasible for them to be wearing a mask, and we understand that. So again, I'll be working with those families. We have ordered face shields for those students, especially if they're taking a speech class. It's really important for our speech teacher to be able to see the students moving their mouths, making sure that they're having the correct speech. And students that families are selecting remote learning, we're going to work on continuing with teletherapy. We can have some conversations if a family is willing to bring in the family or the student for some of their therapies. We can also have those discussions. And our special education providers will be tracking all of the students' progress towards their IEP goals, whether the student is here in school or working from home. We do have a good handful of students that are OA students by residence, but they don't actually attend our school. So I've been working closely with Josh making sure that those students will have their transportation by us, but we have to follow whatever placement plan they have. So some students may be going half day, some may be doing a hybrid, so it's all according to what that specific placement is. We are planning on having all of our CSE and 504 meetings virtually through teleconference until further notice, just to limit the number of visitors that are coming into the building. And then also, if there's any parents or teachers that are planning on referring students for special education, we'll continue to do those evaluations so that we can hold our CSE meetings, and we also have to do that every 3 years for every student with an IEP. Okay. And we'll give it to Nicole.
Hi, everybody. Mary Delapenna's not here right now, so I'm going to take over on the food service protocols that we're going to be following. Luckily, we had a lot of practice over the last 3 months for preparing food that was going to be given out in a bag. Everything is prepackaged for the kids, and they receive it all in one bag. So currently, breakfast is going to be in the classroom, like Lynn had said, for the elementary school. Some of the seating arrangements have changed in the elementary school when it comes to what they're doing there. And a couple of the really important things that we noted, the barcode scanner for all of the purchases so the kids aren't touching the pin pad is a really important thing. But also keeping them in their cohorts, eating in the classroom. I know it wasn't Jordan's favorite idea, but I mean, it's just what we have to do. One of the other main components that I want to talk about is payment not being taken at breakfast at the elementary school. Ideally, everybody would use My School Bucks. I know there's a small fee related to that because they take credit card payments on our behalf. So either send your student in and they can pay at lunch, or you can send a check to Mary Delapenna, so they won't be accepting any payments though at that breakfast. So unfortunately, that's a change we have to make because they're not going right to the cafeteria, and we don't want anybody taking payments through the classroom to keep the money safe. So if anyone has any questions about that, they can certainly call Mary or call the business office, and we can talk about that. But you can always send a check to the mail or send a check with the student and let the office staff know, and they can take it right down to the cafeteria for us. Same thing with the middle high, except they are eating breakfast in the cafeteria because we think we can get them in and out in a timely manner to get them to their first period class. But obviously, we're going to have a reduced capacity seating and an increase in our staff and monitors. Because most of the stuff is going to be prepackaged, they will be assisting in some of the disinfecting of the tables and the oversight of the students. And again, we're preferring that you use My School Bucks, but certainly please feel free to send a check or cash for the students on that day. Everything's going to be in to-go containers, ideally. We're going to have plastic pre-wrapped silverware, and none of the students are really going to be allowed to leave their seats unless they're going to the garbage can. Again, like Mr. Peterson said, that's going to be a difficult thing for the students, so we're really just going to try to get them to learn this is the new way we have to do it right now. So. And again, if you have any questions, obviously Rob's taking questions right now, but Mary and I are happy to answer any food service questions at any time. So you can call or email either of us. And now I'll give it over to Jordan for the cleaning and disinfecting protocols.
Okay, I basically broke my section down into my day shift and my night shift. The day shift people are going to be here when the students are in school. As it says, we're going to focus on cleaning the high touch areas, cleaning up after breakfast, things like that. really trying to get all that stuff. We're also we're gonna open windows in the buildings in the morning, probably before the teachers arrive, to improve the air circulation. Our air handlers, like we have in the auditorium tonight, are bringing in more outside air. But if we open those windows, it relieves some of the pressure that will build up because we're bringing in outside air. And we'll have to adjust that as weather permits when it gets really cold out, so you can't have it. We're going to increase the cleaning of all the restrooms, cafeteria, and as I said, clean up for breakfast in the elementary classrooms. That'll mean going through and completely washing down all the cafeteria tables or desks that we're using in the cafeteria every day. And then target hot spots with our electrostatic disinfection machine. We started doing that in the elementary a couple of years ago, with fluid, things like that. If the nurses see a kid come out of the classroom who's sick, it might not be cold, it could be anything. We will find a period or some time in the day that we can get into that room and spray it with electrostatic disinfection and try to break the cycle of that infection. Night shift. There's really not a lot of change in what my night shift people will do. They go through, they clean the whole building every night. What the difference is going to be a little difference in the cleaning and disinfection. Hard surfaces, desks, countertops, door handles will all be cleaned first, and then they'll be disinfected. We'll clean them and then we'll spray them with a disinfection spray. Let that sit on there. We'll allow them to take 5 to 10 minutes to work to actually do that disinfection. Again, increase the air changes by, we're going to run the air handling units longer at night just to air things out. And we can also leave the windows open in the building until later at night, and my staff will go back through and shut that down, just to improve the air quality. And the same thing at night, the electrostatic machine, we'll have that out, and we'll mainly target the areas that have a lot of issues. Another thing with all this cleaning, there's a requirement that we log everything. And right now I'm working on a QR code system where every room, every air handling unit in the building will have a QR code posted. My cleaners will actually scan those QR codes when they're done cleaning the area. And that'll be logged onto a spreadsheet, and we can tell in real time what's been done, what hasn't been done. So that will ensure that every area is done. They'll have to actually go into that area and scan to ensure that that area has been taken care of. And I think that's about all I have. Extra book.
So just a couple of final things here. Obviously, as Mr. Peterson has said, state guidance will come from the public health, the high school public health, it's not public health, Public High School Athletic Association regarding fall sports. They do have a handful of different modified solutions out there, but really they've been put on hold until at least September 21st. As soon as we get any guidance on that, we will follow suit. We will also be running our extracurricular activities on a very limited basis. There are clubs that do need to occur, National Honor Society, the Ag, but we really do want to limit the number of clubs going on after school, the number of people here after school, to give Jordan and his crew a time to disinfect the building. So information when the school year starts will be forthcoming on that. There's some non-negotiables that probably within the next 2 or 3 weeks I will be addressing the community in regards to stuff that just has to happen. It's very hard to stand up here kind of with a finger and say you must do this and kids must do this and teachers must do this and administrators must do this and families must do this. But we are in unprecedented times, and there's guidance that if we do not follow, we won't be here. And it's just to be very transparent. The faculty, staff, and students must wear masks. They have to. When they're on the bus, when they're standing, when they're on campus, I have a feeling that the community is going to help us by having their kid ride their bike, walk to school, or even drive them to school. I have nightmares that there's going to be 300 kids out here at 7:15 we're ready to get into the middle high school. One of the things that cannot happen is we can't have kids on campus waiting for these buildings to open, all standing outside, not social distancing and not wearing masks. It just can't happen. And again, there's going to be a lot of training for your child or your children when they get here. I have a feeling that the first month of school, very little instruction is going to go on. We were told that it's going to be the social emotional learning, all of these trainings. And kids are going to forget. We have a lot of trainings that we need to go through as administrators. Our teachers have 4 days, and our support staff and our district employees have 4 days. I wish we had a month to do this, because that's what it's going to be. But we're going to have to train the kids that they have to wear a mask. It's not going to look pleasant around here, when everybody's walking in the hallways and we have masks on. We cannot police kids wearing masks. I cannot have a kid in one of these buildings saying, hey, you know what? I'm not wearing it. And like Mr. Peterson and Mrs. Gaylord had said, I don't want our suspension rates going through the ceiling because of that. You just can't come to school. We won't allow it. We can't. For the safety and security of our own staff and everybody else is here, we have to follow these guidelines. And we can't be, yelling at the kids and constantly reminding them, and telling them to put on the mask, and get people saying that they're not going to. This isn't political. I don't want to get political. This isn't about what your belief is, about what your intentions are. This is the law for New York State, and we have to abide by it. We'll certainly promote the hand washing, the sanitizing. One of the things, and I do believe it was a highly thumbed up question, is about temperature checks. The guidance says that every faculty member, administrator, every district employee needs to be temperature checked. We'll make sure that happens. The other part of the guidance is that we need to make sure that all of the kids have their temperature checked before coming to school. I will tell you, in our GVET cohort of superintendents, that's virtually impossible. So one of the things that we at OA are going to do, along with most of the other districts, is we are going to send out a daily health screening form each and every evening, in that we need parents to fill out for each of their child. And there's actually a way through Parent Square that you can answer for all of your kids if you have 4 or 5 kids. But basically it's just reaffirming that the kids are healthy, that they don't have any of these symptoms, and there is a box that you need to put in their temperature. Now, I laugh because I said, how many responses am I going to get? 98.5. But we need the community's assistance in doing that. Part of this platform is in the morning, we'll know who has not filled that out. And then it'll be up to our school health staff, our nurses, to find those kids in the morning to do a temperature check. If I have 300 families that don't do this, we're not going to be checking 300 kids when they're coming through the door. So that's, again, something that we're going to have to monitor, but something that we have to heavily rely on the community to do for us. I do know that some districts are using that if they don't hear anything, it's passive agreement that you're sending your child to school like you normally would, and they feel okay. But that's one thing that I don't want to get in trouble for, I don't want the district to get in trouble for, that we're not checking our kids. So we're going to need help from the families to do that. I know that we will push out those notifications, that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday after Labor Day, just to get people on board, just to see what it looks like. And if we don't get a response from families, we will reach out and say, hey, you forgot to fill this out. Because we're going to have enough to worry about here when the kids do come, that we don't want to be chasing down 50 or 60 kids trying to get a temperature gauge on them because they didn't, the parents didn't fill it out. So there'll be more information on that, but that's just, again, a non-negotiable. We need families to do that. And then again, when kids are here, they have to abide by all the guidance. And again, we will certainly train them on what's expected. Again, we're going to send out a parent square form to complete each day regarding the wellness of your children. And again, there's a box that's required for you to check their temperature. We ask that if your kid gets up and does not feel good, keep them at home. Keep them at home. It's one of those things where we used to say, suck it up and get to school and knock it off. We're just going to tell you to stay at home. We're going to do the same thing with our teachers and staff. If you wake up and you just don't feel well, you got to stay home. You have to stay home. We're going to ask that you provide several masks per day for your child that covers their nose and mouth. I probably send in 3 to 4 every single day. Maybe they have some in their backpack. Maybe they have some extras in their locker. I know talking right now, this is kind of a clothy face mask, and it's already kind of getting a little gross. So, buy the masks. In my letter, start practicing them wearing them. The teachers here have so much to worry about when we come back, and we will train your kids on how to wear masks, but we need your help. We need your help to get them used to what they're going to have to do and what they're going to have to see coming here. So I practice that now. And again, they just need to comply with all the guidance. I have had a lot of questions about face masks. Well, can my kid wear a face shield? Well, can they wear this? The answer is no. They have to wear a face mask. Now, that being said, guidance allows accommodations for kids that medically can't wear one. By medically, that means I need medical documentation. The district needs medical documentation that your child can't wear one. And then the accommodation will be, now they can wear a face shield. So there might be some questions out there in the community about wearing face masks. Yes, everybody needs to wear a face mask. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You can't say, I don't know if my kid can wear it. It's annoying, or my kid won't wear that for a long time. That's not a reason. So if there's medical documentation with contraindications that they can't wear one, sure, we'll provide that accommodation. Otherwise, they have to wear a mask. And we are very much going to limit parent and visitors here. We don't need anybody on this campus that doesn't belong here. We're going to discourage drop-offs. If your son or daughter maybe forgot their athletic bag and you pull up to the school, you'll probably get buzzed in and told to leave it at the door. There's a lot of protocols and procedures that we have to put in place to make sure that nobody here is on campus. If you do report to campus, you're going to have to go through a separate health screening kiosk that we have for entering our facilities and our buildings. So again, we just want to limit the amount of contact that parents and visitors have in our buildings. I know Lynn has talked about a different drop-off and pickup procedure, and I've been at the elementary at the end of the day where that main office is packed with kids and packed with parents. We're asking you to stay in your car. We'll come up with the protocols, but we don't want you in our buildings. And really, that is our plan for coming back in the fall. So I don't know if if Rob can pull some questions. I don't know if there's any quick feedback, if this is something that, sounds doable, if there's some burning issues with this. I think the biggest thing that Mr. Peterson, and we said it as an administrative team, and I know that we have, a meeting with the teachers at the end of the week, is we have to be flexible. We have to be compassionate. Unfortunately with all of this, we also want to make this environment humane. Lunches are going to be very different. The bus rides are going to be very different. But bottom line is I think it's really important to have the kids here because they need their teachers. And as much as we have also put in a lot of time in coming up with our hybrid and remote learning plans, I think the bottom line is that we need kids back here. They need our teachers because, it's more than just academics. And, that is our goal to begin with, is how can we get the kids back here? So, that being said, I'll try to answer some of these questions. We can have discussions, and that's really why you're here. We wanted to put a plan forward to you, and if you see any glaring issues, questions, we'll take this all back and kind of tweak it. But, so here's a question. What happens if a parent doesn't submit the child's temperature via parent square? How are you making sure they are accurate? So, I don't think Rob can model it, but we get a report back, not only of staff, because we're going to push out the same thing to the staff. All of our district staff will have to report that no, they don't have any of these symptoms. They have to put in their temperature reading. We get a list of everybody that's submitted, and it's all good. We immediately get an alert if someone puts in that, oh no, I had a sore throat, or my temperature is 100.6. What you'll get on your end is a big stop sign for your child that says, please keep your child at home. Do not send them to school today. Because somewhere in that form, you mark yes that they had a symptom of something, where you put in a temperature reading and it's above the 100 degrees. So you will get an alert. Our staff will get an alert. When they put in there and say, yeah, I got some muscle soreness and I had a sore throat, it'll pop up and say, please stay at home, contact your immediate supervisor. So you will get an alert not to send your child or not to report to work. We also get an alert. I'll get it right on my phone. The administrators will get it on our phone. But there's a report that we get by building that will say, out of the 425 families at the elementary, 410 have submitted it, and we'll get the list of all of the kids. And then there'll be a box that'll say, 10 haven't submitted it, and we'll get a list of those kids that we don't have any information from. It will then be, the nurses to go around, and we'll grab those kids, and when they get to school, we'll temperature check them. But it is impossible, and the original guidance came out, was that the school bus is an extension of the classroom, and these kids needed to be checked before they even got on the bus. It can't happen. It just can't happen. And we're a small district. So this is the next, most efficient plan that we have. So we'll get a list of the kids. Now, I can see after 2 or 3 weeks, parents are getting tired of doing that. And maybe the list grows where now we got 75 kids up here at the middle high school that we don't have, data from. Like I said before, a lot of school districts are saying, if the parents don't fill it up and still send their kids, that's passive agreement that the kid is feeling, healthy. I don't necessarily like that. So I would probably tell the nurses, hey, you got 75 kids, maybe spot check 30 of them. But again, we can't have, our nurses checking 75, 100 kids a day when they get into the building. So we're just going to kind of see how this all pans out. We didn't want to buy the humongous machines as the kids walk in that it scans everybody because they're $25,000 a piece, and we found out that they have a 12% effective reading, that there's such a margin of error. So, these are the things that we're grappling with. So we'll just have to monitor that. If kids and their parents realize it's too much going to school, maybe a couple weeks in, can they change to remote learn? That's something we're going to have a discussion about. I firmly believe at the elementary building, more so for the younger kiddos, they need to have in-person education. As far as the middle high school goes, yes. Per the state guidance, if a family says, we're not sending our kid, we want to be remote, we have to make that work. But again, our job is to hopefully bring everybody back into the building. But yes, if it gets to be too much, we'd have to work with you to have them learn remotely. What is the protocol if when there is a positive case of COVID in the school? Okay, so I don't know, and I wouldn't expect that you actually read our reopening plan. It's on the website. And we broke it up into sections. But if you go to the table of contents, these are all links. So you don't have to read the 70 pages. There's actually a section that talks about what the district does if there's a positive COVID case. It spells it all out. Very briefly, I will tell you that if we are ever notified that there is a positive student or faculty member that's tested positive, we actually turn that over to the Genesee County Department of Health, and we go and follow their protocols. So, but there's a whole few pages on just talking about someone with symptoms, and we send them home. I will clarify that we are not testing kids. We're not testing staff. We can't. What we can do is screen kids. If a kid all of a sudden during the day doesn't look well, the teachers will send them to the nurse's office. The nurse can ask them questions. Do you have a sore throat? Do you have this? Do you have that? Let me check your temperature. Those are the only things that we can do. If they have a temperature, or at that point, really we want to be on the safe side, we're sending that kid home. And then there's a whole list of things of what must happen for him to return back to school. And that goes for employees as well. So I don't really want to get into all the details, but we have a plan. But if someone is tested positive, we fully turn that over to the Genesee County Department of Health. They come in and they tell us what to do. We also have to be a part of their contact tracing. So having these forms, the temperature forms, all of that stuff, knowing who is in the building each and every day is very important. Because unfortunately, I'm going to tell you, it's probably going to happen. I don't know when, but you can't assume that we're going to come back here and be here for 180 days and not run into issues. The joke right now is the over-under is 15 days. Something is going to happen. And it really depends on, does that person actually go get tested? Do they have to be quarantined? A lot of people, if a kid is sick, you just may say, okay, stay at home for a couple days and we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, here at school, geez, are you going to go get tested? Are you not? What are the symptoms? So there's a whole bunch of different scenarios that we have to play by. But I can almost guarantee you that we're going to run into a positive test. Does that mean we have to shut down? No, it doesn't. But then, how do we notify everybody? Let's say it's a teacher. They're around with colleagues. They're around 100 kids. Or let's say it's a student. The students are going to be with each other in buildings. How do we notify you by also keeping the privacy of it? Those are the types of things that, we don't have an answer to. It's going to come from the Department of Health on how to notify you. And then you become part of their contact tracing. If it's a class at the elementary, do all 20 kids now need to quarantine for 14 days? Does the teacher go home? Those are the questions that are left up to the Department of Health.
Hit the middle button to show. It says at the bottom middle. New top question.
Right here?
Yep. It might reshuffle. Let's see. No, I guess not. Go to the next one.
very different for students? Is there any way we can do a virtual open house, meet the teacher of some sort, just to help them for that first day?
John, I'll address that.
Yep.
So we moved open house up this year to the, I forget the exact date, but the second week of school. So I love the idea. We already have some plans about what that might look like. So I think it can be helpful. It probably cannot happen before the first day. But into that second week, I think it's a good time for it. Again, it'll be something virtual. It'll be different than what we're used to in the past. But I think that can be helpful. It's a great suggestion.
And for UPK kindergarten, that first day of school, the 11th, is only a visitation day, and they will have specific times in the morning or the afternoon they can pick with their teachers to come in, get their supplies, find out what door they're coming in and out of, and meet their teacher. My open house is the week after math because we wanted to try and figure out how to accommodate this. If it's virtual, if there are some ways to do some in person, we thought having it district-wide would be too overwhelming. But we also can talk, I know a lot of our elementary teachers send home pictures and introduce the classrooms. Those are things that we can still encourage. And this year we might have to do a math picture on and a math picture off to help them kind of make sure that they're understanding who is who. And if we have to do any kind of videos of this is how we're going to look when we come in, this is what Mrs. Gaylor looks like, those are all things that we absolutely can put together and share out via social media so that the kids are not so scared or uncomfortable. I do have a shield that I anticipate being like this most of my day, so that when kids are scared, I can look down and say, it's just me, let's talk. I know that a lot of our teachers are going to probably do the same thing, just so that we can make that human factor come back in, reconnect, regroup, and then kind of go on with our day.
Traffic in the hallways, I know Mr. Peterson talked about staggering, the release times. Yes, we're going to have the kids walk on the right-hand side. We're going to be monitoring those sorts of things. There'll be arrows saying, please stay to the right. I know at least up here in this building, we try to separate the lockers as much as possible so the kids aren't right on top of each other. But it's going to be just one of those things that we monitor. We don't want kids moving around. I know at the elementary, 4th and 5th grade are staying in their classrooms and the teachers are moving. So again, that's just something that, while it looks great on paper, we're just going to have to monitor. But yeah, that's one of the big things that we don't want kids in the hallways.
John, that's another one I'd like to weigh in on. And I didn't mention in my apologies. We're not going to ban lockers, but we're going to discourage students from using lockers as frequently as they have. So we're going to encourage kids to use backpacks, kind of a 180 from where we were a few years ago where we said no backpacks. We're going to encourage kids to use backpacks. In the event they have to use a locker, that's okay. Mrs. Gay spent a lot of time making sure that in every case possible, we're every other locker. Not always possible. There are some that are back-to-back, but we spaced the lockers out as much as we could.
We mentioned that for the majority of the classrooms, when the kids are seated and they're social distancing in the classroom, they can take their masks off. So what about the teachers? We have purchased face shields for all the teachers, just in case they want to use them. I know that when I'm talking to somebody, I'm also a lip reader, and I also know I sound muffled right now. I think it's very hard for kids, if I'm a teacher, to stand here for half an hour, 40 minutes and talk and have a mask on. So I think they need to see your face. So if the kids are taking their masks off, I am providing the accommodation during instruction that teachers can wear a face shield. As you're walking around, and I know a lot of people do, group work and want to check on work, kids are going to have their mask right then and there. I would tell them, if you're going to walk up and talk to some kid, and now I'm not social distancing, just quickly throw your mask on. Now, at the same time, I don't want kids every 30 seconds, oh, geez, here you come. We also want to make it comfortable. But at the very least, I expect, the teachers to protect themselves and wear a face mask, face shield, whatever's really comfortable for you. But yes, if you can't maintain that social distancing and you're going to pull up and sit right next to somebody, that student should have their mask on too. But again, this is all stuff that we'll get it. We'll figure it out. That's a good question. So are the kids going to do fire and lockdown drills? So this was interesting. The answer is yes. But fire drills can be staggered. Lockdown drills can be a learning experience. If we call a lockdown drill, we will not pile all the kids in the corner of a room and have them, we're not going to do that. The guidance says that you still have to do fire drills and lockdown drills, but the lockdown drills can be call for a lockdown drill and now make it a learning experience where you say, all right, kids, what would you do if you were in a lockdown drill? Well, we'd all go and sit in the corner over there. That can constitute as a lockdown drill. The fire drills, they can be staggered. So are we actually going to pull a fire alarm? No, because we don't want 500 kids in the hallways. So we can do some sort of staggered fire drill, evacuation drill, and that accounts for the guidance there.
The next one, John, I'll take that one too. I didn't do a great job when I talked about bus drop-off of really explaining that I was talking about buses only. If parents are driving their middle school or high school kids to school, they can come in the main entrance as they always have, and that we think that that'll be limited in number, so we don't have to worry about having to stagger that time. At 7:20, that main door will be open, and any students dropped off in the front circle here can come in that door.
Does that include the students that are driving?
Yes.
Come in the front?
Yes, that includes the students that are driving. Now, I did see the suggestion here about possibly a second door. We'll see how that first day goes. If we need to have one down on Mr. Staggered, I think that's a good suggestion. Let's see if we need it.
As far as transportation goes, we did send out that survey, and I know Josh really took a look at those results. We want to be able to provide transportation to everybody who needs it. So the answer, if you said, no, my kid can walk or ride, maybe if just the weather is bad, no, we consider them to be on the bus. So, we took all of that into account, but again, that's something that we're going to have to monitor as far as, okay, geez, on Thursday, this bus got really filled with kids. What was the issue? All of that stuff. So right now, as it looks on paper, we're good for transportation. But again, something that we're just going to have to monitor on a daily basis. I know Josh is working with families about trying to get a more concrete schedule of when you need to be dropped off and picked up and who's going to whose house and all of that. We'll take that into consideration. But again, that's something that we're just going to have to tweak as we go along. But no, if you need transportation, feel free to send your kid on the bus. Yes, if they are unloading by hallway, will they have to pass all the kids? Yeah, they're going to have to. When they get dismissed at the end of the day and they're going to their bus, they're going to be walking past each other. However, they'll all have masks on. So it's not a perfect science. But yes, kids will be passing, other kids on the bus at certain times. But again, if we can at least make the morning runs easy, where the first kid gets on and sits in the back, we'll do that. As a teacher, there's no place in my room that a student is 6 feet from me. Are the 20 students allowed? No mask still. Yes. So you're a teacher in your classroom. Your 20 kids come in. Their desks are 6 feet apart from you, or from each other. With your permission, they can take their masks off. Now, if you're at your desk and there's a desk right next to yours, we're going to have to take a look into that, because you should also have a little bit of space. But again, it's going to really depend on the teacher, the type of room. I know that I was a teacher and I was always up and about and walking around. I don't know now if teachers are going to want to sit at their own desks and not move around the room at all. I can't answer that. If you have questions regarding the setup of your room, let us know and we'll take a look at that. But I'm envisioning that for the most part, kids are sitting at their desks, they have their masks off, and at the very least, the teacher has a face shield on as they're talking and instructing. But again, that's really going to depend on the activity in your classroom and what you're teaching. Is there a space designated for elementary teachers to work prep when they have a special area teacher pushing into their classroom to teach a special during what would normally be their prep time in their classroom? So.
Yes, and I feel like we should probably address all those questions when we have that teacher only meeting.
Sure.
But we definitely have places and spaces and plans in place for that as well.
Okay. All Are we supplying households that don't have one with thermometers? No, we are not. Again, that's something else that we'll have to gauge. I will tell you that the district will provide, if we ever had to go to a hybrid or remote learning model, that we did send out that technology survey, and we will have to provide every household with internet access if they requested it. And I know that we're on top of that. And like I said, I hope we don't ever have to go to that, but that is something that we will have to provide each family. But no, we are not providing thermometers. Again, that's so close to the USONIC, work for the teacher safety. I guess we'll save that for Friday's meeting with the teachers, some of these teacher questions. Who is monitoring the kids in the classroom when the teachers switch rooms?
We have some aides that are going to be assigned to different grade hallways that can assist with that. They also can assist with, like, there's the bathroom traffic that needs to be monitored. I know that one of the questions that's coming up is about the nurses and the protocols for a sick child. Susie and Kathy have already been creating really nice graphics for us to share out with communities and opening day letters and with our teachers. Kind of a symptoms flow chart, if it's this, if it's that. And from there, it's going to depend on each building, but I have talked to Susie. We're going to really encourage the teachers to call Susie first to say, this is what I have going on, this is what's happening, this is the symptoms that I'm seeing, or, I have a kiddo here with a bloody nose. It might just not even be COVID related. It could be I need a Band-Aid and I stubbed my toe. So she is going to get a lot of phone calls, and we're going to feel that if there are certain kids that we need to take precedent and kind of triage separately, we do have the separate rooms available. There are some things that, I can kind of jump in and help out with that maybe won't require Susie's immediate need. Kathy and Susie work seamlessly together. They're running back and forth between buildings and supporting each other all the time. So those kiddos would be escorted. There's also been conversations that Susie may say, I'm going to the child and we're going to move that classroom to a new location. So we do that all the time anyway before COVID happened. It's a pretty seamless event if you ever are there to witness it. And a lot of communication. So we would definitely encourage the teachers to make the phone calls instead of just having kids randomly show up down at the nurse's office this year.
Do we still at the same time do classes for restroom lockers? Do we still get to use lockers for all our items? Yes, so you'll have lockers. We're going to very much...
The loose end and start the class, beginning of class.
Yes, and we're going to...
Now, some are going to be released a little sooner. We have to be flexible on that one as we go.
Right.
It's going to be written up for an later class, especially with the understanding that some are been released later than others.
Right. We even talked about one of the things with all the safety requirements over the last many years, should I say, is backpacks. We didn't want kids having backpacks in the hallways in the schools. We wanted them carrying their stuff. Well, now it's almost a different philosophy. Is we don't want the kids going to their lockers. So should they have their backpacks and throw everything in there so they're not at the lockers, during passing time every period. So again, that's stuff that we'll just have to monitor. How far outside does the Wi-Fi extend if teachers still require the students to work on their Chromebooks while holding class outdoors?
We can actually pull a Wi-Fi hub outside. We did that for graduation, so that's something we could. I've kind of thought about that when we have classes out there, we might do that. To run a wire out and just put it up outside.
And the outdoor is an option, it's not required. If I'm a teacher and I have an activity where I need the Wi-Fi, maybe I stay in my classroom like that.
But we can cover that. That's something.
The transportation question a minute ago about switching if you leave the bus, and you said you didn't beforehand. I'm basing the needs off of saying that you didn't leave the bus. There's a transportation change form on the school website. It's on there. If you need busing, you can fill that out. We need it says to give us a week to change that because if the buses are basically right now, the buses are pretty much full. So we need to enable something around to which you put on the bus, we can do that. We just need a little bit of time on that.
Can a student wear a face shield in place of a mask without a medical need? The answer is no. Guidance has been very strict with wearing the masks that cover both the nose and the mouth. So you would need a medical note saying that your child cannot wear a mask, and then we would provide an accommodation for them. How will sending kids to the nurse work? They are being escorted for RTI. Will someone take them to the nurse too? It really depends on the situation. Usually we always have kids work with each other and don't always want to send a kid down to the nurse by themselves. But it really depends on what it is. Are you feeling faint, or are you being sent because you've been coughing all day? That really depends. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that. But
No, I think that sums it up. Unless Susie, Kathy, if you want to interject, you're both here. Is there anything different that you would add?
Nope, just if someone's been coughing all day, you should have put that in the first half hour.
Well, it's kind of like in a restaurant. You're seated there, and all of a sudden someone just goes, everybody just kind of freaks out. We want to be careful with that too. We don't want to be overly, stressed out and have 500 kids by 8 o'clock down at the nurse's office here.
Most teachers, especially if they are parents, are really good about filling out the kids. You can tell whether it's just whatever, whether they're trying to take something or really need to come. Most teachers are really great about
Sure.
distinguishing between things and kids. So that's helpful.
What is the procedure for ill students? When will parents be given the guidelines? Again, if you want to look at our reopening plan, all that information is in there, but it really does depend on what happens. Some of the guidance is a kid or an employee can return to school quicker if they actually had COVID than if they didn't. So it gets kind of crazy. If you have just a garden variety kid not feeling well, the nurse will kind of scream and say, hey, look, there's no fever, but they have this and this and that. We'll say, please send them, please go home, see how they feel tomorrow, take their temperature at home, and usually it's 24 hours to 3 days. If they feel much better, then I would say send them back to school. But if they're still not feeling well, I will tell you that the recommendation in any of this, if we're sending a kid home, is to go get tested. Please go get tested. Because then that gives us a firm yes or no in regards to that. And that's what you'll hear from us all the time. Now, whether you can do that or not, obviously it depends on your situation, but we will ask that anyone that's going home, even any employee here, if you don't feel well, please go get tested. Just to give us an idea. So we have face shields and we have additional face masks. We as a district are saying that you should provide your child with a face shield, you should provide your child with a face mask, because obviously they're probably more comfortable with the ones that you get. There's tons of different face masks out there. So we're basically saying, please supply your child with a face mask. However, if the bus pulls up and they don't have one, we'll have one on the bus for them. We'll have one here in school. Something happens and it falls on the floor, they lose it. We have an extra supply of face masks. The issue comes in is that we don't have 800 face masks every day for 180 days. So, yes, we will provide your child with a face mask or a face shield if it's warranted. What about the health and safety of the adults in the room if they are up? And about helping the students with their tasks. While the kids are 6 feet apart, they're less than 6 feet apart from the teachers should be wearing their masks to prevent the transmission of. Yes. So really it depends on your teaching style. If you're up and about and you're going to work with a kid, just say, hey, throw your mask on for a quick second. I want to come over and help you. But I would hope teachers would also have their mask on and their face shield. So yes, you need to be prepared. Will beach towels be expected to be taken home daily for cleaning? Yeah, go ahead.
So one of the things that I learned as an elementary teacher and watching my elementary teachers, they are really savvy and
If I'm not able to pick up my elementary student on occasion, will the person picking the student up need my identification tag?
Yes.
How will BOCES students get the work they missed on Thursday, Friday? Google Classroom, check in with each teacher?
So all teachers are going to use Google Classroom. The short answer to that is yes. But also there'll be a check-in with the teacher available. Office hours will be uniform in the high school. So all teachers will have, all students who are in that learning, the remote learning lab will have access to the teachers.
How will the number of How will the number of students in the bathroom be controlled? How often will the bathrooms be sanitized? So it'd be great to think that we could have one person in there at a time. That's probably not going to happen. And again, that's something we're just going to have to feel out. Because when do kids typically use the bathroom? They use it during passing time because you don't want to miss instruction. That probably is going to have to be altered a little bit because we don't want 5, 10 kids in a bathroom at the same time. So I don't really have an answer for that. That's something that we're just going to have to monitor and think about because again we don't want kids congregating and they'll have masks on. We also don't want 6th grade kids in the bathroom and then taking their masks off and hanging out and doing all the fun stuff they normally do in the bathroom. So we're just going to have to control that. What will happen if there's a positive COVID case at BOCES or GCC? They will do the exact same thing. They'll rely on the Department of Health for further guidance. We will be notified if it affects any of our students, so we're just going to follow their plans. So those students are in the classroom, someone comes, take the temperature. Yes, so again, I'm going to need families to fill out those health screening forms, but again, I know that not all are going to do that. It's not a perfect science. If those parents send those kids, by the time they get here at 7:30 or 8:30, we'll have a list of the kids or the families that did not fill it out, and we'll do our best to grab those kids and check them. It's not a perfect science. There's really no answer to it. Like I said, the initial guidance came out and said you should temperature check the kids before they get on the bus. Well, how are districts going to do something like that? Bus drivers can't be checking them. We're going to have monitors on the bus, but they can't be checking all the kids. And what about the kids that just ride their bike and walk here and get dropped off by parents? It's not a perfect science. We're going to do the best we can. So once we have those reports, maybe it'll only be a handful of kids and we can check them and be okay with that. But if the list is 50 to 75 kids, there's no way that we're going to grab these kids first period and get them down there. We're just going to have to spot check. So that's why it's real important for community residents to understand, number one, don't send your child to school when they're sick. But number two, it literally takes about 10 seconds to fill out that form. If you know your child is good, you can actually click no for all answers and it'll fill it in, and then you just have to check their temperatures. And again, the question about are we going to provide temperature thermometers for everybody to check? The answer is no. I don't know how much they cost. I would recommend that you go out and get one. Maybe there's a shortage of them, but knowing what we're going to be facing in the fall, it's probably good that each household has one. But no, the district isn't going to provide that. What if the child does have a temperature? Do they need a doctor's note, COVID test? Question. So if they have a temperature, please keep them at home. Please keep them at home. We're going to ask you to call your primary care physician. If they have a temperature but no other symptoms, I really don't know what your primary care physician would tell you to do. To come back to school, they need to be fever-free with no medications in their system for 24 to 36 hours. That's the guidance. So, and really, that would be up to you if you would wanted to have them tested. I would say our recommendation is please have them go get tested. But if they're home with a fever and then the following day they seem to be better and the following that, they're okay, you can check in, and there's no temperature anymore, you can send them back to school. But we would ask you to call your primary care physician. And again, there's some specific guidance in there on employees and kids returning. Yes?
We have to have a background check before my back. Says they have to have a physician's note clearing them back and they go over the
Okay. So I'll tell you when you read this, your mind is, it gets very lengthy, and it depends on like the situation. And like I had said, you're almost better off testing positive for COVID, and you can get back to work earlier than just staying at home, and it's crazy. But thank you, Susie. When will temperature checks be taken on the bus for students riding the bus? They won't. We're going to rely on that parent square form. Are we requiring breakaway lanyards?
They're encouraged, but I can't really require that. I can't mandate that because I can't substitute one if I don't have it for them.
Will parents be able to line up when buses are there? Will there be a place for parents to wait if not?
So we're never going to want the buses and the cars in the same loop at the same time. So we will have them separated. You know, Howard is going to have to assist us with that. Jordan's crew might have to assist us with that to try and create the traffic flow. If you do miss your time, you will have to wait at the front in the bigger parking lot where the buses are usually kind of waiting and staging so that we don't ever have a bus and a car in the loop at the same time.
I understand correctly that K and UPK students may potentially be seated on the bus in the far rear instead of the first few seats, depending on when they are picked up in the morning. Then they would get off the bus from the rear directly at the B or C hallway. Yeah, so if your child gets picked up and they're the first one on the bus, they will be asked to go to the back. And again, this is not a perfect science. And then once they get to school, you know, depending on the hallway, yeah, they may be passing people from the back to the front. It's not perfect, but it's just a way, at least in the morning, to have the kids, you know, for the most part when they're picked up, not passing each other. You know, it's the best solution that we're all trying to do as far as transportation goes, but we understand it's not a perfect science. Well, early dismissal for appointments, etc., work the same way as dismissal. Who will have the role to make sure the kids get out to the vehicle?
So for the elementary level, parents are still going to have to come to that front door to buzz and ask to come in to drop off their child, and Kim Fisher and Rosie will flag you in to let you bring your child in, or just making sure your child gets to you. If you have a sick child, we're pretty much going to have Susie at the door with your child waiting for you so that that door can be opened and you can go out. You probably will never leave what I call the fishbowl area because they'll come in if it's a snowing, rainy day, you'll wait there, but you'll never actually come into the elementary office. If your kiddo has forgotten a library book or a lunch, we will have a table there, so when you get buzzed in, have everything labeled, leave it there, and then the ladies in the office will come and get it and make sure it gets out to the kids' classrooms. But we are really limiting, that second entry into the actual office as often as we possibly can.
How will UPK and K visitation look like on 9/11 if parents coming into the building is being limited?
So we are encouraging one parent to attend with your child, and you will also be asked to mask the same way the rest of the adults in our building. When you come in, you will have the sign off with the COVID screener. We have the rapid system set up just as a normal day. We will have different visitation times, and I can talk to our kindergarten and UPK teachers. This year, because we do have to monitor restrictions, we may have to open up 3 times, and it may be something where you fill out a form and we only can have this many guests at once. But those are questions and answers that I still need to digest with my teams to see their comfortability level and what's going to work for everybody involved. But we're still brainstorming that, and we'll get an answer to that shortly.
Teachers are wearing a face shield. Do they still need to wear a mask during instruction? No. I'm allowed to give you the the accommodation that as you're teaching, you can wear a face shield. However, that does not substitute for a face mask. Then if you are going to walk through the building and go make copies or go see a colleague, we ask you to put the face mask back on, but you are able to wear a face shield during instruction. What about the lockers? Well, they have supply lists. Supply lists stay the same. Yeah, the supply lists are located on the website. Just add masks to them. Well, 5 minutes between classes is enough time for teachers to sanitize and clean up, get ready for the next class. So we'll discuss this on Friday with the teachers. We are highly recommending that teachers clean the desks and the chairs before the next group of students come in. However, based on the guidance, we cannot make that mandatory. So really it's going to be up to the comfort level of the teacher in there. We will certainly provide you the training and the cleaning supplies to do that, but there are some certain instances where we understand it's not feasible. So I'll talk more to the teachers this Friday about that. It will be highly encouraged that you do so. One of the other questions was, how can I do that and also supervise the hallways? And I would say to you, if you have a class coming in immediately after a class that is left, I'd ask you to quickly spray and wipe down the desk. If you don't have a class, maybe it's a prep period or your lunch period, then take the extra 2 or 3 minutes and stand in the hallway and just monitor the hallways. But we'll talk more about that on Friday. For the middle high school, what clubs will the students be able to participate in? So
We hope all of them. The restriction will be the time frame. You can't have, Mr. Blue does some pretty cool stuff into the evenings. That'll just have to be altered within the time frame. You have to have the building cleared out by 4 o'clock.
Did you get that? Will the kids be responsible for their barcode paper? Will it be laminated? What if they forget it?
So what's really nice about the barcode is that anytime we need to make a new one, Mary can print that for us. We will laminate them. We will have them on their lanyards at the high school. I know Matt can have a couple extra copies for his kids. But at the end of the day, if they get to the line and they don't have it and they can give it the monitor or the cashier their name, they will type in their name. They will make sure that they get their lunches, their breakfast, and things will be paid for appropriately. So your children will always still be able to eat with or without the barcode.
How does staggered drop-off times for middle high school students work if families are dropping kids from different grade levels? Won't that clog the back bus loop? So if you're dropping your child off in the morning, we ask you to use this front loop. However, these doors will not be open until 7:20. I know that there were kids last year, sometimes when I got here at 6:15, 6:30, 6:45, that these front doors were open and they were just kind of hanging out in this front atrium. These doors will be locked until 7:20. So if your child walks to school, rides their bike, you drop them off at 7 o'clock and it's raining outside, you're going to get wet for 20 minutes. We're not opening up these doors. But you can drop them off here in the front loop so you're not where the buses are. As far as just the staggered drop times, that's so we don't have 500 kids entering the building all at once. And again, that's something we're just going to have to monitor and tweak as we go on. Will mass breaks be scheduled in my child's day? Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the biggest takeaways from our survey in regards to reopening was that it was very obvious that we didn't want to have kids wearing masks for 7.5 hours a day. It's just not feasible. I wouldn't expect that out of anybody here to do that. So yes, and that's why we spent a lot of time trying to social distance kids so we could say that they will have mask breaks and be able to take their masks off. How many kids can be in a bathroom? Will there be a 2-child limit? We're currently looking at that. I would say probably yes. We're going to have to come up with some sort of way where if there's a green sticker on the door that you can go in, we train the kids that once they go in, make that sticker red. We talked about the desks in the cafeteria that having just a little red and green or a sheet that says this desk has been sanitized you know, when a kid gets up after eating, he just flips it over, and it says, this desk needs to be sanitized, and it's a different color. We're looking at all of those kind of minor protocol procedures, but yes, you don't want a whole bunch of kids in the bathroom, so we'll have to monitor that and figure that out. Will afternoon snack in the classroom still be allowed? If so, is there a protocol or any limitations for that?
So in the elementary school, there's always snack time. We encourage you to send your own children's snacks in, so if there are allergies, issues that way. Last year, the Parent Lighthouse team did do a huge food drive where we were able to give the teachers access to a snack cupboard to take snacks back to kids. I don't know what the limits for snack cupboard is.
It's teacher discretion, and we generally don't have a lot of snacks in the classroom. But this year, you know, some of us are changing. We're going to have, there's at least one lunch period where we're going to have a grade level eating in the classroom. So some of that's changing, but there's not a lot of snacks in the classroom. Yeah, if there is, usually for the teacher discretion.
Another question just about bathroom usage. Is there a different bathroom they should use than the 5th grade for 3rd through 5th graders?
Yep, so 3rd, 4th, and 5th will all use the same bathrooms, but we are working with the teachers about how many kids can go when and how often, and kind of staggering time so that 3rd will go, 4th will go, 5th will go. Obviously, if there's an emergency, you're going to have, access to the bathroom. Jordan has been really good about working with us. We have 3 cleaners on every single day. I typically have 1 cleaner on. So that bathroom is on a cycle to be cleaned often, especially with that machine that we have. So that will be one of the most sanitized areas, I'd say, throughout the day.
I'm shooting for at least 4 times a day for school.
And we're also changing the back faucet, the drinking fountain that's back there. Jordan ordered a bottle filler so that kids will be able to fill up their bottles in the back hallway for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. That will also limit them transitioning to the front of the building.
Okay, if a student or staff member is diagnosed with COVID, what communication will be sent out to the parents and staff? Again, that'll come from Genesee County Department of Health. We are working as assistants side by side with them. You would certainly receive probably some very generic information from the district, and it would probably read like one of those strep throat letters that you can get about, hey, your child may have been exposed, but they will drill down right to who, as far as their contact tracing protocols go. So if anything, you'll probably get notification from them. And we just follow their guidance. And again, I have a meeting with Paul Pettit tomorrow at 2 o'clock to go over that, because he's going to serve all of our districts in this area. So it's a whole bunch of superintendents with him, and there'll be one generic protocol for that. Will teachers have to log in and they clean their rooms in between classes? The answer right now is no, because we cannot make that mandatory. What Jordan had said before, especially with his staff, is we're working on a code system that once your room and things have been disinfected and cleaned, they do need to log that. Their employees and their departments need to log that. But as far as teachers go, no, there's no responsibility for you to log anything. Will teachers have to check in at the main office every day and sign the COVID agreement? You are getting pushed out this parent square form that the families are getting pushed out. So we'll ask you about all of your symptoms, and we also have a gauge in there for you to check your own temperature. So you're a part of that. And we'll also see who doesn't fill that out. So technically, no, we just need that form for you to fill out. If someone who has been in the building is positive with COVID, will the district close school? I can't answer that. Again, if there's a tracing or someone was in here that was COVID positive, we're going to follow the Department of Health guidance on that. It's very different than what it was in the spring. Do I necessarily think we need to close? It could be from the answer of no to yes to maybe just a building for 24 hours, and what does that look like? So I can't really answer that though. What if a student comes to the bus without a mask? We'll put one on there. Who will be monitoring and greeting students at each of the points of entry in the elementary school?
Typically, that's always
and cars will line up together? No, they have separate drop-off points. Does elementary have the remote option? Per the guidance, yes, but that we have to work with that family on a case-by-case basis. We do believe for the elementary students that it's very important that they're here. So the option is more available, I guess, for the middle and high school students. But if the family is very concerned about not sending their elementary students, yes, we would have to work with you and provide remote instruction. That being said, there's a couple protocols to all of that, because I know here at the middle high school, some of it might be, some of it's going to be synchronous, where we have the kids actually, based upon their schedule, log in and see the live classroom. I think that would be very tough for elementary students to do that. But if that is someone's recommendation, certainly give us a call and we'll help with that. Students who attend BOCES and GCD will basically remote learning as the library and the half days they are at OA. Will there be teacher support? So yes, that remote learning, and I don't know what you officially call the remote learning lab. Yes, we'll be staffed with the teacher, and there'll be check-ins, and yes, there'll be teacher support for that. The students that are attending BOCES are probably going to have to be a little more flexible with us because we have to follow GBET's schedule in that you're full day Thursdays and Fridays, not these half days that we're used to, because GBET is not going back 100%. Will students share class sets of textbooks? No, we do not want you sharing any sorts of materials. Again, that will be dependent on the class and what the teacher wants you to do. But we're even more cognizant too, even about art and painting supplies and glue sticks and all of that. We do not want you sharing those types of materials as much as necessary. We want to keep everything separate. Will classrooms have extra garbage cans to handle eating breakfast in the classrooms? Yes. You mentioned more frequent restrooms, sink, faucet cleaning. Will this also happen for classroom restrooms in elementary throughout the school day? Yes, we have additional staff in both buildings that will provide more disinfecting and cleaning. Will teachers have time they have to leave the buildings? Will teachers have a time that they have to leave the building and ensure that cleaning can take place? We've told that we would like after school activities to be done, and basically this campus cleared by 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Again, if you're here and you're doing work, I'm not going to kick teachers out, but we don't want also students hanging around. It's not really going to be an open campus. We are limiting very much outside organizations from using our facilities. If sports does reopen, I'm sure there's going to be guidance on the amount of people that can attend sporting events. But for the most part, we want this building closed after school so the crew can get in here and disinfect it. We don't want evening meetings occurring, evening activities going on. So the district is being very cautious about having those sorts of organizations come here and use our facilities. Currently, right now, we don't have the fitness room open, we don't have the pool open. Those things, we're being very cautious about that. And we're just going to really wait to see how the opening goes. Are clear face shields an acceptable alternative to a mask for adults or children? So again, the adults, as far as instruction goes, we can provide you the accommodation to wear a face shield. That does not take place of a face mask though. So I guess the answer to that question is no. Face masks must be worn, and unless you have a doctor's note stating why you can't wear that, you need a face mask, or excuse me, a face mask, yes. How will office hours work? Will kids be able to go to different teachers' classrooms?
Yes.
If students are being escorted to their vehicles at the end of the day, will there be some sort of window identification that the said student can enter that vehicle? Yes. Is there transportation to and from OA to BOCES? Yes. Arrival, seeing my students will still group together. Who supervises this time? So that's a good question, and I don't have an answer. I will probably be here that first day on September 11th at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just going to watch and observe. We don't have the answer. What I can't have is 200 kids out front, all on Snapchat, snapping each other without masks on, saying, "Oh, look, first day of school, here we are," and then the Batavia getting a hold of it. I just can't have that happen. But nobody's going to be out there supervising them. These doors open at 7:20. It is what it is. And really, I'm going to need the community's help. And if you drive your kid here to this campus, when they get out of the car, tell them to put their mask on and don't take it off. And it's going to be very hard to do that. And we're going to have, trust me, the first 2 or 3 days, probably that first Friday when the kids come here and all in the next week, we're going to be talking to them, training them, telling them what they need to know and what they need to do. They didn't read this guidance. They didn't read our reopening plan. They don't know this. And if anything, they probably think, we're a jerk for having them wear a mask. We will train them. But I hope that they understand and learn that for them to be here and for this to work, we need their help. And again, we can't spend hours policing them. They have to follow the protocols. I have to protect every staff member and every student in this building. And, they have to follow these protocols or you'll be learning from home.
For the elementary, the reason we pushed everything to 8:30 is when kids can go into the classrooms for the teacher's contractual hour. So once they get off the bus or enter that hallway, they're assigned to that hallway because they're going directly to their homeroom where they will start their cohort experience for the day. So they're not going to be sitting and mingling and interacting with each other in elementary school. They will be ushered into their hallway and directed right to their classroom, and the teacher will be standing at the door kind of interjecting, and then the aides will be outside making sure they get in the right door.
Has an isolation waiting room designated and prepared for the return to school? Yes, we have an isolation room at the elementary, and there's one up here in the middle high school, following that guidance. If temperatures are going to be taken to students and staff, who will be responsible for doing this as they enter the building? So once again, we're going to be relying on families and our staff members, and that we all fill out that form that we pushed out nightly, and we will then see who does not turn one in, and we will follow up with them. If we do need to do temperature checking, we have those infrared thermometers. More than likely, it'll be administration or the school nurses double checking kids. We have about 20 of those, Jordan? 16? Yeah. So, sanitizing the rooms in between my students and the next student at the same desk. Can I send in sanitizer? Please work with Jordan on this because we have regulations on the cleaning supplies. We will provide you all of the cleaning supplies that you need. So we are not asking teachers to buy additional cleaning supplies unless you want it for your own personal use. We will have enough hand sanitizer. We will have enough PPE for you. We will have enough of that stuff for you. So
Just on that note, I think that was more directed towards students. Students are not allowed to sanitize desks at all per the guidance. We used to be able to let them do it, but now we can't because of the specific guidance. They're not allowed to do that. If a kid had a Clorox wipes little pack in their pocket and they whip their desk out, nobody's gonna say anything about that. If it makes you feel better, if they got some wipes and they want to wipe something out, we're not going to complain about that. Just make sure it's an appropriate product.
Can you help us to find masks, face shields by posting places locally we can buy them? Will you be selling them as a fundraiser? Wasn't there a club? Wasn't someone going to do it as a fundraiser?
Yeah. Somebody asked about that.
Yeah. as face masks go, they're unfortunately so popular now, you can get them anywhere. As far as the face shields go, I would check Amazon, and I purchased 10 face shields where actually the face shield is from the bottom up instead of coming over your head and covering your eyes, just because of the glare. So there's face shields that actually rest on your chin and come up. That might be appropriate for some teachers, depending on their situation. But you know, the face masks are so widely available now, you can get them at the gas station down the street, unfortunately. Do I have to put the Parent Square app on my phone and Chromebook?
You don't have to put the app on. It's just convenience. It is a website. Nothing to install.
Yeah, we're going to ask, and there'll be some information to do that, but actually you don't. You'll still get the push notifications from Parent Square. If kids want to stay after school and work outside, how and where could they change? Right now, at the beginning of the school year, we're not going to have the locker rooms open. We just can't. So, good question, and I don't know the answer. We're really waiting for some guidance regarding sports. Can a student that decides to do remote bounce back into the classroom? Thus bounce back and forth.
So what I did is I sent a letter out. There was about 43 students whose parents requested some information on remote learning. What I said to those parents when I called them is that we really can't accommodate the bouncing back and forth. We're going to ask you to pick one and commit to it. But that being said, you know, I'm a human being. You're a human being. We will work with you. If it's just not working on remote instruction, we wouldn't leave you there and hang you out to dry. We'd work with you to transition you back to school, and vice versa. We'll ask you to pick one.
Will teachers have the option to keep their classes masked throughout class? The answer to that is yes, but I would like to, to look at that as a case-by-case basis. There are going to be certain areas in each building that's going to be designated 100% mask wearing, just for the safety of some of our employees, some of our teachers, some of our students, and some of our families. So we will talk to the kids about that. They'll have questions of, well, why can I take my mask off here, but I can't take it off in here? And obviously respecting the privacy of everybody, there's just going to be certain areas of each building that we're going to ask the kids to keep their masks on. So if we're discouraging the use of lockers and asking middle high school students to carry their supplies for the day in their backpacks, can we also reduce the number of binders on the supply list?
It's not a perfect solution saying discouraging the lockers. The reality is they aren't going to have to use it. And maybe the kid, as they go through this after a day or two, figure out that if I can stop my locker periods 3 and 6, then I'll reduce my load in my backpack enough. They'll have to figure that one out on the fly if they want. But as far as reducing the supply list, I don't think I could stand up here and say that, in Science 8 suddenly they don't need a binder, or in Math 7. I'm going to leave that up to the teachers and leave the supply list as is for now.
Students use classroom to hold their bags if needed, more for sports bags. Will this still be allowed? Yeah, for sports. We don't know that yet, so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And again, please understand that with a lot of this, it's being flexible, it's being transparent, it's also being reactive, and again, just watching how things go and tweaking them. I probably would assume that you'll receive a lot of alert, a lot of text messages, a lot of communication from either the building principals, your teachers, or even myself as the days and the weeks go on. The pickup drop-off may be an absolute disaster, and we'll have to come up with another plan. But we'll make sure we get that information out there to all of you. What does all of this do to the budget? Does it change the plans for the building project? Absolutely not. We are good to go. Our building, our capital project, if that's what you're referring to, is really a completely separate pot of money and state aid funding. We are 100% a go with our capital project. And SEI Design Group has been here. We've been meeting on Wednesdays. We've had small user groups in regards to the work that's being done. We're meeting with them again on Wednesday. We're going to spend the day at the elementary building, looking at the cafeteria, the gymnasium, the main office, all of that. And we've had, teachers and the employees affected by those spaces coming in and working with our design team. So we are absolutely a go for that. If a kid is homesick, can they tune in to learn virtual for that day or two that they're sick so they don't fall behind?
So think of Google Classroom as this. It's a repository for the teachers learning content. So if a kid is home from school sick that day, why not access that if they're willing and able and they're not too sick? And they're going to eventually have to make up the work anyway. So the answer to that one is yes.
You mentioned the Parent Square daily health screening will be sent out the night before. When does it need to be completed by? I believe it pushes out at 11 o'clock the night before.
We push out our notice whenever we want, but they can go in starting at 11 p.m. for the next day.
Okay, so 11 p.m. starting for the next day, but then it locks them out
That's
after
at 11 a.m.
11 a.m. the next day. So
we have flexibility.
right. So just that morning, the morning of, when I know you get up in the morning and cook a big breakfast for your kids, you could just, if you can fill that out. Again, what we're going to do is we're going to do a trial run 3 days before the kids come in, actually on Friday. So you'll see it that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You'll see the questions. Hopefully you'll see how easy it is. And then we'll follow up with parents that seem to not be replying or have an issue or maybe aren't getting it. So we should be good to go by Friday. Same thing goes for staff. You'll probably end up getting it the week before we report on Thursday, so you'll be able just to go in there and pop it. And then again, we'll get a report of who filled it out and who didn't. So, let's see. Our group's larger than 50 allowed together, 70 students eating lunch allowed. As far as school districts go, yes, as long as we can social distance. So, we could have 6, 7, we could have the middle school in here as long as we can social distance them to have some sort of orientation. So schools are allowed that. Then of course you get into, concerts and gatherings and sporting events and all of that. So it gets a little muddy. But yes, we can, by the guidance, have 70 students eating lunch as long as there's social distance. I will tell you where a lot of this came from, because there's been a lot of concern with the word and or. Do we have to social distance and wear masks, or do we have to social distance or wear masks? And the issue came up where a school district submitted their reopening plan, and it was a half a page long. And they said, we're coming back full time, and we're doing exactly what we did, because all the kids are going to wear masks all day long. And that's not what this reopening plan and this guidance is about. It's about getting kids safely back to school and try to make sure that you're doing all of this guidance, which a lot of it we can. And then the fallback is, if you can't social distance, then that's when kids wear masks. Now, it's impossible to social distance when you're in school. It's impossible. We're not a restaurant. We're not, a mall. We're not a business where you can limit the number of kids, So when we say we're coming back here in the fall, we can probably satisfy 95% of the guidance in here. And I can honestly say, yeah, we can have our kids in the classroom when they're seated to take their masks off because we can social distance. And that's what this guidance is all about. But there were districts out there that said, no, we're still going to have 32 kids in a classroom because we're going to park them right next to each other and they're going to wear a mask all day. And that's not what this guidance is all about. So there was a lot of back and forth, and you've seen it with the governor and who's interpreting what and what he's asking us to do. That makes it very confusing. But I want you to understand that we would not be standing up here if we didn't think we could pull this off. The staff has been fantastic. Again, we have a meeting with the teachers on Friday. We're going to clarify all of this. And again, there's going to just be a lot of unfortunately, a lot of unknowns, but that we'll work through and make it work for OA. So, will tutoring and detention still take place? How will a child be able to get home on the bus if it's after 3:30?
So, some of those we don't have all the answers to, especially with tutoring, so I'm going to hold my response to that one at this time.
But we won't have detention. We will have a separate bus run for clubs and organizations and detention that does go on here. But we will have a separate bus run at 3:30. We will not send the middle high school kids down to the elementary to hop on the elementary run. We've already worked that out with Josh, and that's why it's real important that when we do run extracurricular clubs and activities, that we don't have 5 or 6 things going on in the afternoon on a single day. We're really going to have to create a schedule and spread them out. So I think that's about it.
You answered that question from us.
Which one?
Unless I missed it, sorry. About the backpack and safety for.
So there was a question that I think was posed, what will we do about student safety if students are carrying backpacks?
Oh.
And the answer, at least in this building, is we can't search and we won't search kids' backpacks randomly. But, you know, we do hope to create a culture where if a student and their peers see something that's suspicious, they report that. We have a form that the kids can use to see something, say something form. If something's suspicious, we'll investigate. But we can't and we won't do random search of backpacks.
Yes.
I couldn't hear, then I'm sorry, home based thing. Are they expected to take their towels home every night? And then hopefully different inner towels supposed to come back?
Right, so, if they don't have more than one beach towel, obviously a bath towel will be sufficient. Beach towels are just a little bit bigger, that's why we stuck to that. But yes, encouraging them to go home nightly to be cleaned, encouraging them to send in a different one while the other ones are washed. I know it's hard to ask them to wash something every single night, so trying to stop on some, rotations is definitely going to be encouraged. And we'll talk with our teachers about making sure that's also in their welcome back to school letters.
Great, thanks.
What other comments, feelings, thoughts? Yes.
I'd just like to say thank you because I have a lot of people talking to me about how they're, I don't know if I feel comfortable sending my kid back. I don't know what's safe, and that you guys have taken out of the school to think about other people's kids is easy. And I know that this is not going to be 100% for every family, but I would say you guys did a great job. And thank you.
I'm gonna, well, as I mentioned, this isn't gonna work if we're not supportive of one another, and we're not willing to go the extra mile. It's not gonna happen, from, just, the custodial staff to, transport, everybody is nervous. Everybody is scared, and I'm right there with them. I have Zoom meetings every week with the superintendents, and when I look at the other 21 faces on the computer screen, it's pretty telling. And we're all reacting to, what the governor is saying and what our communities are saying, and it's not easy. And I mentioned to the administrators, and I'll mention to the teachers on Friday, and I think I've already mentioned it to the board. This is really a no-win situation, because you're going to make half the people happy and half the people upset. And we just, we don't have all the answers. And sometimes that's tough to swallow, because we should have the answers. This is our profession. And it's been very difficult. I know teachers are concerned, the administrators are concerned, everybody's concerned. Everybody has questions, and I've said this, everyone has a story, and we have to be compassionate with everybody in regards to their beliefs and philosophies. And the one thing I don't want this to become is, political, because I can't stand up here and say, yeah, we shouldn't wear a mask. I mean, this is what has been handed to us. So throwing all that aside, we have to do what we have to do. And we're going to try to make this work for our faculty, for our staff, and obviously for the kids. It's not easy. And if someone says, where are you going to be come October? I have no idea. And some of the questions about, are you shutting down, and what if someone gets positive COVID test, this and that. It's, the Department of Health is running around too, trying to figure out how are they going to serve all the schools in this area. And it'll be very, very interesting. But I just want to thank the community for their support and for you to be a part of this, because, again, a whole bunch of brains together is a lot better than just a handful. And I think we're doing what's right for Oakfield, and that's what we set out to do. We've taken a lot of the feedback, a lot of the survey results, and while again we can't please everybody, I think we can move forward with this plan. And again, everybody's nervous, everybody's concerned, and I'm right there with you. In these next 3 weeks before school opens, things could change tomorrow. But I think right now we're in a good spot, and and thank you. We are doing the best we can. So, yes.
So just as an administrator, I see my teachers come in with a 100-degree temperature. They've got a cough, they've got runny nose. It's natural that we push through it. We can't do that anymore. Our own kiddos, if they have ear infection, they have fever, we have to keep them home now. So my question is, will the district be taking on more subs? Because I just foresee the faculty needing more time off.
We talked about actually having building-based subs here. I would like to post for 3 positions in both buildings starting on day 1, where maybe, because we use the frontline platform, so if the teacher's going to be absent, they post their, and the subs can pick it. I'm thinking of just having 3 extra vacancies in both buildings. But I'd also like to say that I know that there are some districts that are doing, hybrid or remote, because if the teachers aren't here, we can't open up. And so that could become an issue. It really could be. We're going to tell teachers, if you don't feel well, please stay home. And then if you have your own kids and they're not feeling well, don't come to work. So that's just another whole issue. So yeah, I can see being short and having to scramble around, in the morning, trying to find subs. And I'll tell Heather right now and Kim, we need you to cover a classroom, I will. So, that's just something that's just a whole other issue. Yes?
Can you clarify with the masks and the shields, because I think the question came up, there's things that are sold that are like scarves for the kids, and even I've seen hospital staff wear them where it's pulled up there, labeled as a shield. So with pushing out to the parents saying to have a mask, but they're also allowed to have those cloth shields.
Okay. So if I can clarify, a face shield is the clear plastic face shield. But if you wanted a gaiter, kids wear bandanas, this is a mask, those are fine. The reason I tried to clarify that is some of the guidance talks about face masks and some of the guidance talks about face coverings. And we got very concerned about what is a face covering. So we are not allowing students to come into this building wearing a face shield. They have to have a face mask. Now, under the face mask, yes, they can wear the gaiters, they can have the bandanas, even handkerchiefs are allowed as long as it covers both nose and mouth. But yes. Anything else? So, obviously, this is going to be our plan. Over the next week or so, we will be working, and for the most part, it's already kind of spelled out in our reopening plan of what the hybrid and remote plans look like. Real quick, if we're in a hybrid, all of these protocols still are the same because we'll still have kids here. But we can kind of define what hybrid looks like and the reasons for some of our decisions. I do know that Connie and Danelle, who did run the hybrid, took back your feedback. We kind of crafted it, and if we ever had to go to a hybrid model, what that would look like. And then I know Rob and JC took all of the information regarding completely 100% remote, and we will work that into our plan. What I'd like to do is next Monday, meet at 6 o'clock to go over those plans for you. And then the informational pieces that I had mentioned in my letter and coming down the line really is going to focus on just completely reopening here in the fall. Again, we have a meeting with the teachers this Friday. We'll take their feedback, and then according to the governor on Friday, I have to have 3 parent meetings, which we will. I have 2 set for that one day, and then on the 24th, I will live stream kind of like a YouTube video, all of this information again, and the question and answer period will kind of look like what we did here, and then we'll keep our fingers crossed. So, but in the meantime, if there's any questions, concerns, something pops up, hey, this might be a great idea, call, email me. I'll be here and provide us any and all feedback. And if you hear something out in the community, please forward that person on to me. Be a spokesperson for this type of work. And again, I thank you for your feedback. I thank you for your suggestions and your comments, because it does help guide us in what we're trying to do. Because I think, as Sue said, we want everybody to feel comfortable coming back here, and that includes, the faculty, the staff, and more importantly, the students and their families. We want to get this information out there and make sure that we get all the questions answered. So, but again, I thank you for your time tonight. I'll stick around for a little bit, but again, thank you. And I think by Friday I'll push out a couple of the slides about the hybrid and the remote learning, and you can come with comments and questions next Monday. So, thank you.